Welcome to Empowered, Mind-Body Inspiration. The mind is the map to wholeness, wellness, health. The heart is the key to genius and inspiration. Join me and my guests as we explore how to release and rewire into who you truly are, unique, whole, and empowered. Please like, share, and subscribe. Spiral up, spiral out. Welcome, everyone. Today we have Juliette Bryant from England. Juliette is a leading figure in the field of health and transformation. She has traveled the world seeking out the best tools for achieving good health and healing. Juliette has 3 books and countless articles about health. She is a nutritional health consultant specializing in healthy living, well-being, and nutrition. Welcome back, Juliette.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here again.
Lovely to have you. Today, we're going to talk about stepping into your power, what that means, what stops us, and just about empowering ourselves.
Amazing. Such an important topic. You know, I think that in the world we live in, we give our power away so easily, and we have to seize it back now. It's time to regain that sovereignty over our own being and really anchor ourselves into this moment and into who we truly are.
Yeah, and we've just come through the darkest period of the year, moving into the light. You know?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's the perfect time. And, you know, I often think Canadians are so polite. We're so, you know, we always say, oh, I'm sorry. And, you know, we really care about other people. But I think we really need to learn to take back our power. There's something in the teachings of our past that make us give it away so easily. So what do you do, Juliette? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was just out actually walking, doing my radio show. I'm on a radio station called Kind of Sound, and I was just out walking in nature, talking about the awakening that's happening at the moment. You know, where Earth is waking up, and that's such a beautiful thing. As the light returns, the Earth wakes up. And one of the things for me that I think is so important about taking back my power is connecting with nature. And I think this is where we've gone wrong. I think we should go back, you know, what is our power? What does that look like? And that's different for everyone. And I think that's an important thing to think about. So, you know, really sit and think about, what does my power look like? What does it look like when I step into my power? How do I vision that in? Because, you know, for me, stepping into my power looks like me being really strong and connected to nature, being out with the plants, you know, for me, it's being one with the plants, being one with the trees, you know, this being that is really vibrant with light and with life force, because I have awoken to the fact I am one with Earth. I am one with all of this amazing beauty that is around me and magic. And for me, that's what it looks like when I step into my power. It looks like someone who isn't scared to speak my mind, but speaking it from a place of love as opposed to aggression. Someone who is really sure of themselves and able to act and have fun and be joyful. So that's what it looks like to me, really stepping into my power. And in order to achieve that, you know, I always work backwards with things. It's like, okay, so that is what it looks like, me in my power. So now thinking about it, where am I now? And what is between me and that? And I think that's quite a good exercise to do, is thinking, okay, so if that's what I want to get to, what steps do I need to take to do that? And for me, one of those steps is having more time in nature, so that I can remember that connection. I can remember the magical qualities that are all around me, and I can enhance that in my own being. So that's one thing. Another thing for me is, you know, eating very well. And this is something that I focus on a lot, but I feel that we disconnect from our power because we fill ourselves with so much stuff that isn't natural.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, by filling ourselves with toxins, with all this stuff that shouldn't be there, we're disconnecting ourselves from that vitality and health that we should have, that is our birthright.
Yeah. And as we become more healthy,
So
we
I
make
think
different
that,
choices.
you know, that exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. As we become healthy, we hear different voices, for sure. We can hear the truth of our being more, and we can hear what our body is trying to communicate to us, which is so important.
Yeah. And I find connecting to nature, there's a really strong element to connecting to your solar plexus and your heart. And that makes you feel powerful. But then there's a difference, like you're saying, in power over others and feeling your own power from that place from within.
Yeah. And I think power has been, that word has a lot of connotations, or negative connotations around it. You know, when we think of power, quite often we think of the abuse of power. We think of, as you said, the control over others. This is kind of what comes into mind when we hear the word power. But we need to take back that, because actually power is something that is, again, it's our birthright. We are powerful beings, and we should stand in that power in a beautiful way, knowing that what that means is vitality. That power means strength. It means strength of will, strength of being. So, you know, owning that we can be powerful. And I think especially for women, you know, there are issues around that word power, because, you know, if you're powerful, then you could be considered to be, you know, not a nice person. Power and women quite often don't go together in history. But actually, when you look at some, you know, for me, like powerful women, who are real powerful women, when you look at the people like Bodicea, or Boudica, you know, the same person, different pronunciations. You look at these powerful women who were the kind of matriarchal people holding society together. And women always have been powerful. Women hold families together, which is such a powerful role. You know, women throughout history have been the ones preparing the food generally, going out and foraging. Women have been the ones, just the medicine ones, quite often the medicine women. Until more recent history, women have actually been in those roles of power, and in more recent times that has been switched to the patriarchal society that we are currently living in, where that has massively been suppressed.
Yeah. And I wonder, you know, why is that?
Yeah, well, there are many different thoughts. For me, one of the things that comes to mind with that is that you have to have the pendulum swing, don't you, all the time. So from living in a very matriarchal society, the next pendulum swing is going to be a patriarchal society. And what we need to now reach is that middle balance, where there is the balance between the masculine and the feminine. And I think that's the time we're coming into, where that power of those two forces resides within. It's like the kind of concept of heaven and earth meeting in the heart and expanding out. And I think that, for me, is what power really is. It's the union of masculine and feminine. It's the union of heaven and earth. It's finding the balance within all of us, that stillness, because that is ultimately true power, comes from that still point that we get to when our mind stops and we allow ourselves to sink into who we really are, beyond I'm a mother, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a homeopath, I'm this, I'm that, you know, beyond these roles. You know, really, when we step into the depths of our soul and who we are beyond daily mundanity, that is the true majesty of power that we all have, regardless of our physical health, regardless of any of this. We are these beautiful souls who are here for a divine purpose, I feel.
Yes, and that's so beautiful. And so to take that time to be still is so important. I remember I was teaching teenagers how to become one with nature, and you had to take that stillness first, go into your heart, and then you saw everything completely differently.
Yeah.
You know, when you went for your walk, you could see nature and be part of it.
Mm. I think that's what nature does teach us. It does teach us that stillness. And I think that through meditation, through breathing, through things like that, it is an amazing thing when you stop and you breathe and you just close your eyes for a minute and then you open them. If you're in nature, everything is so much more vibrant. The colors are so much more vital. You can really connect so much deeper to everything. And that is just such a special thing that nature gives us. And I think you're so right, taking that time to see without a device. So often, you see people walking in nature, but they're looking at their phones. So they're not actually present with the moment that they're in. They're not present with their surroundings. And I think the more we can get present with our surroundings, the better it is for our journey to returning.
Yes, so true. What do you think are some of the things that stop us from moving into our power? There's so many fears and so many programs that we have to overcome.
Yeah, so there are many things that stop us really getting into our power. I think the main one is ourselves. It's our fear of ourselves. And I work with a lot of people, and what I see is that we are often our own worst enemies. Our worrying about what others are going to think of us, I think, has a huge impact, and also our negative self-talk. One of the things that I think about quite often is the fact that we're made up of over 80% water. So we've got all this water in our being, and I don't know if you've come across, or your listeners have come across, Dr. Emoto's work. But Dr. Emoto did beautiful experiments with water, the healing power of water, where he photographed water. He froze water from different areas in the world, and he photographed that water to see what the crystalline structure of that water was. And what's remarkable is when you said different words to water, it took on a different geometric structure. So, for example, if you said love to water, there was this beautiful, like snowflake, absolutely stunning image, or gratitude. But if you said hate, the image totally went. There was no crystalline structure. It was just a kind of blurb, a mass of molecules. So why I think about this so often is because if we're made up of over 80% water or liquid, then all of our thoughts, all of those words that we say to ourselves, are affecting our crystalline structure of our water, which has a massive effect on our whole being. So the more we can catch ourselves when we say, "Oh, you idiot," or whatever it is, and say, "I'm just doing my best. I'm not always perfect, but I'm doing my best, and I'm really grateful for the journey I'm on. I'm grateful to my body. I'm grateful to this process." This can be really amazing ways to start reclaiming that power that we're losing ourselves through this negative self-talk. So I think that's one of the ways, this negative self-talk, this fear of, like, if I am too powerful, if I am too good, if I'm shining my light, what will others say? And people are very scared of that, and I've spent a lot of my life having that exact issue of, like, oh God, what if I do that and someone doesn't like it, or what if I affect someone? Because when I was early teens, I was bullied, and for being different, and for basically being too unique and shining my light, and people didn't like it. So it had a big effect on me for a while. And at first I tried to change myself and mold into everyone else. And then I was like, actually, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to crush my soul and my being because it doesn't conform to what others want. But when you are, as we all are, when you have a mission, you have a light that you want to shine, it can bring up other people's shadows, and it can make people feel insecure because they don't feel good enough. So they want to crush you so that you don't feel good enough. So I think this is a really important thing to be aware of, and know that it's okay to shine. It's okay to be a beautiful, radiant being. And when you do, it also allows other people to have permission to do that. It allows other people to have permission to shine their lights and to be in their uniqueness, which is such a beautiful thing. I think really important thing to be aware of. So I think, our own self-talk, other people's opinions, or our fear of other people, that fear of rejection is such an important one in the losing of our power. And I think the media, and is another massive one for that. If you listen to the news and you put yourself into the programming that is being given to us all the time, then it's very easy to lose your power, because what a world we're living in at the moment. They're trying to take our power. The powers that be do not want us to be empowered beings, because that means that we will think for ourselves and we will be autonomous and sovereign beings. And that's not what they want. They want sheep following orders, because it's much easier to control. And that's why they put fluoride in our water, to control us, because fluoride has been shown to control people. In fact, it was a tact they used in concentration camps. They would put fluoride in the water to make the people in the concentration camps more docile, which is just horrendous. And this is what happens all around the world now. Fluoride goes into our water to dumb us down.
Yeah, I think we just need to be aware of this and to always follow the money. And when you do, you're like, whoa, what is going on in this planet?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where also the food things come into us losing our power, because when we start buying lots of processed food filled with additives and preservatives and all these other things, this is another way that we are being controlled and we're losing our power, because we are putting things that are not natural to our body. We are diminishing our vitality and our life force. Just like when we drink chlorinated water, we're diminishing our bacterial life force, because we're killing our own bacteria. So these are key things to look at and to start to address. And I've just talked about lots of negative things, but obviously it's important to understand the things that are at play, and there are so many things at play that are taking our power away. Wi-Fi, the EMFs that we're surrounded by take our power away. There's a lot going on, but when you know what you're dealing with, when you know the parameters that you're working with, then you can start to go, okay, well, what can I do to empower myself? What can I do to overcome these things that are being put in front of me? So, for example, when we look at the water in our body, as I said, in this negative self-talk and how this is going to be affecting our crystalline structure, we can start by bringing in positive affirmations. And one of the ones that I love is, I intend to show acts of kindness today, opening myself up to the possibility to bring joy into the life of myself and others. I'm going to say that once more, because you can let it settle into your being. I intend to show acts of kindness today, opening myself to any possibilities to bring joy into my life and those around me.
So beautiful.
I think, intentions are such an incredible way that we can vision in the future we want, that we can step into our power, because we're not focusing on what we don't want. We've identified it, and that is key. We don't want to there's this term spiritual bypassing. We don't want to bypass or ignore what is going on in the world. We don't want to be blind to it and say, I'm just going to put myself into a ball of light and I'm fine, because that is really not taking responsibility or ownership. So that's why, we look at, well, what is taking away our power? And this is an exercise that we should all do. Sit down and go, okay, in my life, in my everyday life, what is taking my power from me? When do I feel that kind of caving of my solar plexus? When do I feel that drain? When do I feel those boundaries caving? So what in my life, because we're all individuals, is stealing my power on a daily basis? And some of that, as I said, will be us. So then you write those things down. You go, okay, so how do I address those? Well, first of all, let's bring in the intentions, those affirmations, to start to shift the perspective. Because quite often that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about our perspective, how we frame things in our mind as to how much power things take. Does that make sense?
Yes. And, often we think things are too big. So we go into the bubble, or we say, oh, I'm just going to shield myself from everything. But we each need to step into our power in order for there to be change.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be, that you're going to take on the government, you're going to take on the whole system, you're going to rewrite everything. That, we can start with small steps. It's like, so for me, stepping into my power, it's about making sure I'm drinking good, clean water, without fluoride and without chlorine. That's something that we can do. Everyone can do that individually. It's about, okay, looking at your diet. Well, what foods can I eat that are going to empower my health, that are going to, decalcify my pineal gland, which is the center of my intuition? What foods can I eat that are going to support my adrenals, that are going to make me strong, so that I have the most vitality and life force to live the life that I should be living?
Right. And when you do these things, you can be in touch with your own intuition, and that allows you to change this world from within in your unique way, in tiny steps, right? In little steps.
Exactly, because each little step, it's like the ripple in the pond. You throw the stone into the pond and it ripples out, and you may not realize how far those ripples are going, because the world is created by how we vision it, by our inner state. So the more people that can come into that stillness, the more people that can step into their power and say, I'm going to start growing my own vegetables. I don't want any of your glyphosate. I don't want your GMO food. I don't want your toxic poison put on me. I'm going to start growing what I can myself. I'm going to choose to buy organic. That is a big stepping into power that is happening, and you can see that rippling out. More and more people are waking up going, no, actually, we don't want Monsanto. we don't want that stuff sprayed on our food. Let's go for the organic version, please. And I think that you can then see the more people that do that, suddenly it becomes a movement, and that movement gains traction, and that traction has an effect on the monetary market, which then affects policies, etc., etc. So, the more people that do that, I remember buying organic food, 15, 20 years ago, and people thinking I was just nuts. And now you look at it, and so many more people have woken up to that. And that's stepping into your power.
Yes. And today I'm going to turn the news off, and I'm going to find my own inner power and my own healthy place and not be afraid.
Exactly. And that's, when I went out for my walk earlier and I was filming this stuff for my radio show, something that I always get reminded of, you can watch the news, you can live in these bubbles and see death rates, see, rising cases, see illness, see, catastrophe all over the place. And then you can turn that off and go out into nature and see the flowers coming up, the snowdrops coming up, the catkins on the hazel trees, the sun shining. You can see all these things that are still going on. They don't get stopped. Nature doesn't stop because of what's on the news. That majesty of nature doesn't stop. So when we can bring our awareness to that, and we can refocus and dial into that, for a lot of people, they wouldn't know that anything was going on in the world, because that's not what nature is presenting to us.
No, and it really isn't. So what does the energy of fear do to us inside?
That's a great question. I mean, first of all, fear paralyzes us. One of the things I see a lot with my work is people operating in a state of fight or flight constantly. And what this means is that in the olden days, the way olden days, when there were lions and tigers and bears, oh my, you've still got bears, but when we had these dangers, our fight or flight mechanism was there. You were lying on the floor asleep, a lion comes, you wake up quickly, adrenaline shoots into your body, your circulation moves to your extremities, it moves away from your digestive system so you can get up and you can run. Your sugar gets spiked into your blood, so that you've got that adrenaline and energy to run for as long as you need to. So you keep getting sugar spiked into your system so that you have that maintained energy. So this is what happens when we go into fight or flight, which is brilliant for that period of time that you need it, but that's meant to switch off. But what's happening in society today, and has been happening for a while, is people are in a constant state of fight or flight because they're in a constant state of fear paralysis. So their body is constantly shooting sugar into it. So you've got all this sugar being shot into the bloodstream constantly. So the pancreas is having to work even harder for the insulin production to deal with all this sugar that is being pumped into our systems because of the adrenaline and the need to run that actually isn't happening. And then we're not using that sugar up properly because we're not actually running. We're not running away from a lion. So we're not actually using it in the same way. So we have loads more sugar in our system. So then we start to get insulin resistance within our cells, which then can lead to potentially diabetes or pre-diabetes. So this is one thing that's happening, this fight or flight constant thing. But this is also putting a strain on our adrenals. Our adrenals are the glands that sit on top of our kidneys that pump out the adrenaline and also cortisol, the stress hormone. So our adrenals are being affected on a regular basis because they're being burnt out. So a lot of people are getting fatigue, real fatigue in their system from being in this space, and also when you're in a state of fear, as I said, in this fight or flight, your energy is moved away from your digestive system. So you're not breaking down nutrients properly. Your digestive system isn't working properly because your main energy is focused in the extremities of your body. So this is having an effect on your nutrients, which affect your overall health and well-being as well. And we operate from a different part of our brain when we're in fight or flight. We don't have the same rational thought. And, they've done studies, and it's very interesting that when you give someone this really bad information in the very beginning, you say, this is what's happening. The body goes into this fight or flight, into this fear paralysis, and then it locks in that original message. Now, you could give it other messages that say, actually, that's not true. But the rational brain isn't there to analyze it. The brain is just locked in. I'm going to die. I have to protect myself. So we can't think and see things in a clear way until we switch off that fight or flight. And it's like a fist, If you have a clenched fist, you can't give or receive anything. If you have an open hand, you can give and receive. And this is the same with our body. When we're in the stressed fight or flight, we can't give or receive. When we're relaxed and open, we are open to the possibilities. We can give and we can receive the beauty that is all around us. So this fear is having such a detrimental effect in so many ways on our physical health. That we really need to address this. Fear is also located energetically in the kidneys. So more and more people are having lower back pain because they don't feel supported. They have this fear running through their system. So releasing fear as much as we can is a really key thing. And for me, one of the ways that I do that, again, it's very nature-based. It's sitting on the earth, or hugging a tree if the earth's too wet to sit on. But it's just letting go. It's breathing. It's doing meditation. Breathing exercises are very good for releasing fear. But it's also then using foods that are known as adaptogens that help to support the body to deal with stress. So you helping to really feed the body instead of starving it. So you're putting in things like reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom, foti or hoshu wu, ashwagandha, licorice root. These are all holy basil, tulsi is one of my favorites that I'm working with at the moment. These are all great things to help support the body to let go of stress. Also, vitamin C is very good to reduce cortisol levels in the body.
Yes, and then as you release stress, your immune system is stronger and there's less fear.
Exactly. And I think that the immune function is so linked to stress and fear, and our immune system does not work properly if we are in a state of stress and fear. So in the current climate, we're looking at obviously a lot of fear and a lot of stress. People are losing their livelihoods. People are businesses are collapsing, people are having real challenges homeschooling their children and being locked down in different areas. So, you know, this is putting people into a huge state of fear. And what does that do? Suppress the immune system. Well, what do we need if there's a killer virus out? We need a strong immune system. So, you know, we need to counter the narrative that is being put on us. If there is this really bad virus, we need to make sure we're optimizing our vitamin D, reducing our fear, reducing our stress, getting outside, getting in nature, you know, adding in good food, being in joy as much as we can, and hugging. You know, they've shown there's many studies that have shown that has shown the effect that hugging has on our immune system and our stress response, and it lowers our stress response and increases our immune system. And that's what many people are being deprived of, is that physical contact. So if you've got someone in your family, you know, make sure you're hugging your family members more that you can, you know, hug as much as you can, and that you feel comfortable to, I think is an important thing.
Yeah. And I often think about, you know, how we're doing things in the disguise of for our safety, right? And meanwhile, there's people really hurting from being alone, and all these things are cascading, and so much detriment is happening. And we just need to sit in our power and in our place of knowing and find a different way.
Yeah. And I think that different way is emerging. And I think that, you know, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. And I think that we are going through a shift, an awakening of consciousness, an awakening of the spirit of the earth and the spirit of us with the earth. And that resilience, we're tuning into that we are resilient beings and we are sovereign beings. And I think that the more we can tap into this, and some people may be going, well, how do I tap into that when I'm scared and, you know, I'm stressed and I've got all my kids and my husband potentially under one roof and it's hard. You know, how do I tap into that inner knowing? How do I communicate with that? And there are lots of different ways you can do it. One of the things that I like doing are vision boards. And a vision board is basically a piece of cardboard or a cork board that you can pin things on. You can either stick it onto cardboard or pin it onto a cork board, and you get images that make you feel good. You can write words on it. You can create just such a beautiful scenery so that when you're looking at it, you're visioning in what you want to bring in your life. And I think that one of the most important things about stepping into our power that we can do is we have to identify, well, how does that look? What do I want? What do I want in my life? Like, what do I actually want? You know, how do I want to live my life? And actually get really clear, because clarity is one of the things that brings us the most power. An unfocused mind is one of the most disruptive things to our power. So when our attention is being pulled in 100 different directions, how can we be powerful? But when we focus and we hone in and go, okay, this is actually what I want. I want to achieve this. I want to feel like this. I want to eat more organic food. I want to, you know, meditate. I want to do whatever it is. Write it down. Get it out of your head, because it's in that writing down. It's in that. There's an interesting thing, you know, when you think when you're writing, what are you doing? Well, you're spelling. You're literally spelling words, aren't you? But actually, you're creating a spell. You're creating an intention. You're bringing your subconscious forward into your conscious brain, and you're setting this intention.
Spelling and writing, I find it really interesting that our children aren't learning these very basic things anymore, because through spelling and writing, you're right, you create, and it's connected to your heart and your spelling.
It's amazing, isn't it, when you start to go, oh my God, I'm spelling.
Yeah.
Not just spelling, but I'm spelling, I'm creating magic. And I don't mean that you're doing some dark ritual. You know, some people, the word spell conjures like black magicians. That's not what a spell is. It's setting an intention. That's all a spell really is. It's bringing an intention into focus. And it's through that intention coming into focus that we can create that reality. So that's what a spell really is. So one of the nice intentions that I really like is I intend for my mind to be receptive to clarity, inspiration, and any other information that will guide me towards my goals.
Yes. And where does that come from? It comes from stillness, being connected to the heart, which connects you to the unified field, which brings inspiration. Yeah. You know,
Exactly.
and if we each do this, there is a ripple effect. We don't have to change the world, but we send out that ripple.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it starts within, doesn't it? It starts with me. Everything starts with me individually. We have to take ownership and responsibility for ourselves. And, you know, the thing that is so disempowering is when you do look at, you know, the tragedies going on in the world and you think, oh, but I'm just one person. What can I do? But we can all make a difference within our own being by taking responsibility for our own deeds, our own actions, and creating as peaceful a world as we can in our own bubble of experience, our bubble of connection. And then from that, our energy affects those that we intermingle with. And then that spreads out. So the more we can bring that focus back, and we can remember. I think that's what this is all about. Stepping into your power is about a remembering of who you already are, who you have come in. You know, we come into this world, I feel, with all the gifts, all the tools, all the knowledge that we need to succeed and fulfill our path, our soul's path. But we forget, we're programmed out of it, you know, and so what it's about is a remembering. It's about a going within to remember the beauty that we are. And sometimes through meditation or through nature, you know, so many people have said, oh, when I go out walking in nature or I hear a bird sing, that just stops me and I can feel this beauty and this stillness expanding out from myself, this love radiating out. And that's where we want to be, in that space. And we can't always attain that all the time, you know, especially at the moment, that can be really challenging to have that state all the time. And, you know, what we do so often, and I know I'm guilty of this, is, you know, you're in a great space and then something happens and you go out of that great space and then you blame yourself and you feel guilty for, you know, maybe shouting at your child or whatever it is. And then that guilt lowers your vibration even more. But it's all about learning and going, it's okay, I'm human. And it's human to experience emotions, both positive and negative, because we have to, because that's the spectrum of life. So it's okay to feel fear, but we don't want it to paralyze us. It's okay to be angry, but we don't want it to overcome us. You know, it's good to honor that we have this variety of emotions that come up, but we're not subject to them to controlling us. And I think that that is key. You know, it's, we can have thoughts and we can have feelings, but they are not us, they're not our deeper being. So allowing them to come up, noticing them, acknowledging them, and knowing that they're going to change. They're not going to be there forever. You know, we could feel something, and you see this with kids. A friend of mine is an amazing woman, and she does this work, 3 principles work, and it's very much about that we are more than our thoughts. We are more than this. We are this cosmic consciousness. And she works a lot with children. And you see it very much in children. One moment they can be that it's the end of the world. They're so upset. They're distraught because their tractor has lost a wheel, you know, and it's calamity. And then the next moment, they're totally distracted and they've forgotten about their tractor wheel and that it's the end of the world. And they're laughing and joking and singing and nothing's happened. So, you know, this shows that polarity and that ability to move quickly through thoughts and feelings if we allow ourselves to. And I think that is a really good thing. Don't get attached. Try and just breathe through it and allow the next thing to come up.
Exactly. Yes. And the more that time you spend in your heart and, in that good place, the more willing you are to see it, laugh at it, allow it, and let it go, and we are human, so it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think, creating a toolkit, creating stuff so that you can basically have that knowledge and support, so that whatever comes up with, you've got the tools to deal with it. You've got the ability to cope. So, for example, having a first aid kit in your house is a great source of support, knowing that you've got a first aid kit in case someone gets hurt. So this is a tool to stepping into your power. It's having these different things. So you've got your first aid kit. Well, what else do you need in your first aid kit? Because you don't just need plasters and, some healing balm for cuts. You probably need some meditation tools and some breathing techniques to help you feel calm if stress happens. Maybe you need some rescue remedy or some homeopathics in there to support you in that whole process. Maybe you need to have certain foods around. For me, my CBD hot chocolate mix is a great support for me. If I feel like I'm getting stressed and overwhelmed, I have a cup of CBD hot chocolate. And that's beautiful because I know that's got CBD, which is very good for anxiety and depression and stress. And it's also got medicinal mushrooms, which are adaptogenic herbs to support me. So it's got cacao, which has anandamide, which releases a bliss chemical. So it makes you feel good. So, it's looking and going, okay, so these are the things that I feel block me from my power. Like I said, creating that list and then going, okay, so what tools do I need to overcome these things so that when they come up, I go, it's all right, I've got this covered. I've got a list up and I know what I can do. Because just that knowing makes you feel empowered. It's like we were traveling for years with the children, and one of the things that I wanted to have was steri strips in my purse. Steri strips are like those little butterfly stitches, so that if anyone got a bad cut, I could put those on them. And I always had healing balm. And no one ever got bad cuts, but I always felt like it didn't matter because I was prepared because I had that in my purse. And it's one of those things that if you've got it, you probably won't need to use it so much, but you need to have those things. So I always have in my house a supply, not a big supply, but a small supply of food. So if for some reason, we get snowed in or, the supermarkets can't get food or whatever it is, then I know that I've got some basics here that I can use to feed people. So that's stepping into my power. That's what I feel I need to do. I've got herbs and medicinal plants that I grow. So that's another thing. It's like I know how to use basic things around me and also things from my local environment to empower me so that I've got these tools, regardless of what's happening in the outside world, to support myself and my family.
Yeah.
For another thing that's come up for me recently that I've been doing is buying little bits of gold and silver, and not a lot, but just a little bit. So I know that I've got this this energy of abundance with me.
Yeah, so important to have that energy of abundance. And what you're talking about is moving, like we have to have the vision board, but we also have to take action.
Yes, exactly. It's I always remember a story. I was in the car with my mum. My mum was disabled, and we had an au pair who was there to help look after us and my mum. And she had come over from America, and we were in England, and she was driving. She was being taught to drive, and we were in the car. And she got to a roundabout, which obviously in America they don't have many roundabouts, so it was a new thing for her. And she closed her eyes and stopped and was praying. And my mum said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm waiting for God to tell me when to go." And my mum said, "God will never tell you when to go with your eyes shut because you're not using the vision that God gave you." And I thought that was a really interesting thing. As a 9-year-old, it really stuck in my head quite prominently that we can ask for help from God, from the universe, from whatever you want to call it, from the divine, from the earth. But if we don't take those action steps, then no one can do anything to support us.
Yes, exactly. So if each of us take action from a place of intuition and heart, the planet will be a different place.
Exactly. And it's very different from taking action from fear and lack. When you take action from love and from connection and from abundance, then you take action in a very different way. The energy behind it, and this is the key thing, I think this is the kind of key takeaway thing, is that intention is everything. You can do the same action with different intentions because of what is the energy behind it, the driving force. And this is what other people can feel into and feel is, you know, sometimes someone says something and it doesn't feel right. And it's not the words they've said, because the word they've said is fine, but it's what they're actually saying underneath it with the intention and their thoughts that they are thinking. And that's what gets conveyed. So your intention is always key. And what I like to do every day is I start my day with a bath. I put Epsom salts in and essential oils, and I have my bath before everyone gets up in the house. And I lay in my bath and I meditate. And it's not a long meditation. But what I do is I set my intention for the day. But my intention doesn't come from my mind. I breathe into my body and I say, today, what do you need me to do for you today? And usually it's like breathe, drink more water, go out for a walk, dance. You know, it's not necessarily a complex thing that my body needs. And then I also ask my business, what do you need me to do for you today? What is that one thing? And it's not like, okay, give me 20 things that I need to do. It's like, what one thing do I need to do? And I always like to affirm, you know, what is my intention for the day? What do I want to achieve that is for the highest good of all living beings? Have we lost connection?
Nope, we're back. All good. That was beautiful. So, and let's finish this with you telling us. So what I love is we're getting to how our intentions and how our actions, how the universe responds to that. So even with money or gold or, you know, if we have this intention of abundance and when we're spending that money, we're grateful for it and we imagine it coming back to us, the universe really understands our intentions. So they're very powerful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I got for my oldest boy and my husband and myself at Christmas, I got us all a really tiny little bit of gold. My son's one was a 007 one, but my husband's and it was a Ganesh, because Ganesh is about abundance, to keep in our purse, wallets, you know, or where for my son, where it saves his money, so that energy of gold, that frequency, that vibration of the kind of highest value thing is in our field. Not that I want to be rolling in gold, you know, or it's not about that. It's about just welcoming in the abundance of the universe, the abundance that is waiting for us, that is all around us. And as you said, having gratitude when you spend money, gratitude that it's there, and welcoming it in. I think a lot of people have abundance, or they do, but have abundance blocks. Because we don't feel worthy of accepting that money into our lives. We don't feel worthy that we are of value. And that's what ultimately it is. It's all energy, isn't it? And money is energy. Everything is energy. So when we don't want to welcome in energy or love or money, it's because we don't feel good enough. So, you know, tuning into that, I think, is a really important thing, and saying, I am worthy of love. I am worthy of abundance in all its forms, be it abundance of joy, of connection, of food, of money, whatever. Welcoming that in is so key.
Yeah, and welcoming it in allows us to, it's right back to feel our own power and live in joy and
Exactly.
abundance and in our heart. So beautiful.
Yeah. And I think a key part, the kind of last part really of the puzzle with it all is, you set your intention, you get firm with what you want to create and the goals that you want in your life, and you look at what's blocking you from that, and you create that toolkit to opposite that. But then what you want to do is you want to reflect every day on what you're grateful for, what's gone well. And this is such an important part of stepping into our power. It's acknowledging where things have gone well. What are you doing right? Where is the universe providing? Where is it supporting you? And acknowledge this. I do it every night before I go to bed. I write down what I'm grateful for. So I go to bed with that energy of gratitude infusing my being. And that is such a powerful way to go, wow, look at all the things that I'm creating that are being co-created with the universe at the moment. Because that makes you feel powerful. Gratitude.
Yeah, it's momentum.
Mm.
And I love your vision board because, I've used that all my life, and some amazing things have happened. But whenever I feel I'm moving into fear, I just imagine, no, I'm moving this way. That's where I'm going. And it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. One of the tools you can do with that is, if the story of your life isn't going the way you want it to go, you can take time to just write down, okay, so this story isn't going the way I want it to go. So how can I rewrite my story? How do I want this event, this episode to turn out? And actually write down, rewrite the story of that moment, or the story of that event, or whatever it is that's happening, because then it helps you to change that narrative and not be locked into, oh my God, at being the victim, which is what we fall into, don't we? We fall into this victim mentality. So often it's so easy to, and we all do it, and you don't want to judge yourself when you do it, but it's about going, okay, so another tool I've got, I'm feeling like I'm a victim, I'm feeling like I can't cope, like life is caving in. What do I want my new story to say?
Yes. And then move toward that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And to be
Exactly.
just to be aware that you're in that state.
Yeah. And I think, we can sometimes feel overwhelmed by the steps towards that. So it's like, sometimes where you want to be is nowhere near where you are. And you can look at that and go, well, I can never get to that point. But one of the things that I do in a lot of my work is I tell people it's about taking those small steps. So every day, what one step can I take to move me towards my intention? What one thing? And if you do one thing a day, before you know it, you've done loads. But you're not trying to do in one day 100 things, because you're going to fail, and you're going to set yourself up to lose more power, because you're going to be disappointed and upset with yourself. So you go, okay, what one thing? And it's one achievable thing. That's the key. It's like, it has to be something that you can actually do. You can physically achieve. It shouldn't be, okay, I'm going to go and jump off that mountain tomorrow to prove, because physically, if you don't live near a mountain, well, that's going to be impossible. I'm going to go paragliding tomorrow. Well, it's all shut. So that's not an appropriate thing. But it's like, okay, what can I actually do now to step me towards that overall intention I'm trying to achieve?
Yeah. It's so true. And for me, sometimes I don't know how, it's a big thing that I want to do, but sometimes just creating beauty within my own space, cleaning, tidying, meditating, and then I know how to move.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this clarity comes.
Exactly.
And that next little step. Yeah.
I think that is the wonderful thing. We don't have all the answers, and we're not meant to have all the answers. But when you take those steps, the answers present themselves slowly along the journey when you're ready to see them. So you create that fertile ground. You create that fertile ground of yourself, so that you can plant and grow the vision of the future that you want.
Yeah. And it's all unique for everyone.
Exactly.
But it's something about taking the action with intent that has to come from a heart space. But
Yeah.
I think you've nailed it, Juliette. Thank you so much. How
My
do people,
pleasure.
yeah, how do people find you? I know you've got some wonderful things up on YouTube and you have your own website.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I've set up at the end of December a membership program, which is a monthly program where I do webinars and I do masterclasses and workshops for my members and put out lots of amazing content. There's a brilliant video library, so there's lots of great resources, and that's been wonderful setting that up, because that has been an intention of mine for a while, and I hadn't been able to do it. The pieces hadn't fit together, and suddenly, you know, I'd held the intention. It all just lined up for the solstice, so that's when it started. And I'm running that on Telegram, which is a great sensor-free platform, which I'm really enjoying, and it's great having like-minded people coming together for it, so we can create this kind of parallel community where we can share and exchange ideas and recipes and tools and techniques to grow and support each other. So that membership is something I'm really excited about. That's on my website, which is Juliette, with 2 T's and an E, Bryant.com. I'm also on Telegram, and that's Juliette Bryant. I think it's Juliette Bryant anyway. And I'm on MEWE. I am on Facebook for now, but I am moving away from that because I'm trying to move away from the censorship platforms. Having been wiped off it now a few times, I really think it's time that we focused in other ways on these platforms that don't have such a negative connotation to them. So my Telegram is Juliette Bryant 27. So that's the handle on Telegram to find me on there.
Okay, and I'm going to put those in the description. But yes, absolutely, when we start to get censored on how to be healthy and sovereign, that's concerning.
Yeah, it really is. And this is about stepping into our power as well, and taking our power back from these platforms that are doing this. You know, when I was first banned on Facebook, probably about 6 months ago, I was banned for 30 days from 2 different accounts. I was like, whoa, this is mental. And then they reinstated me, and I thought, okay, great. And then they literally deleted everything, no warning. And I'm not posting controversial stuff. I'm just posting about health and well-being. But it was a brilliant wake up, because I thought, hang on, where do I want to put my energy? Do I want to put my energy and give my power away to people who can wipe it out like that and control it? Or do I want to find alternatives where actually I can be myself and speak freely? And, you know, I try to only speak from a place of love and from the heart. So I'm not, you know, I think that's how we should all be trying to communicate as much as we can. So it's not that it was, you know, I'm not using hateful speech. I don't think that's a nice thing for people to do. So I think that it's really important when we step into our power that we look at, well, where am I giving my power to? You know, through my financial choices and through my energy choices, my time choices.
Exactly. And where to funnel it and to say no to certain things, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to put those links in the description so people can find you. You're doing amazing work, Juliette, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Juliette. And for everyone out there, don't give away your power to anyone else. Just spiral up, spiral out.